Hello everybody, it is vlog number 8 as you can see over there, and this week has been very quiet. I've been making more of my masks, of course, like I showed last week. I spent the days working from home as per usual. I guess the most interesting thing that happened was last weekend. Sunday was Mother's Day here. So my mother came over this way and I was like, is that a good idea? But apparently it's okay to have up to 2 people in a car. That meant we needed more than one car because she was going to pick up her sister and my brother and I, and we were going to go to the graveyard to do some family grave maintenance, which we usually do on her birthday and Mother's Day and all these other things like Easter. If she were to come this way, we would do that then too. So she was going to go pick up my aunt, and then my brother and I would drive in our own cars. So basically there were 4 cars driving 4 people around. 3 cars, sorry. But as per usual, my mother is very disorganized. I think if she were to take the MBTI test, she would probably be an ESFP, I think. Very disorganized in any case, so yeah, whenever she tries to make an appointment with me for like, okay, I'll say, why don't you just tell me when you think you're gonna be here so I can prepare and be ready by the time you get here. She'll say something like, oh, I'll let you know when I leave, and that would mean that I'd have an hour and a half-ish before she gets there. Instead, what happens on the day itself, she doesn't tell me when she leaves, and she tells me like 10 minutes before she gets here, get outside because I'm about to arrive. And then I usually get picked up by her car, we drive in her car. But of course, with current situation, we're not allowed to have more than 2 people in one car at the same time. So the plan was that she would go to her sister to pick her up, and my aunt still lives in the old neighborhood where they all grew up, her brothers and sisters. And she had just, my mother had just reconnected with a former neighborhood girl that also lived there, roughly the same age as them. So she was going to take pictures in the neighborhood, and then they were going to let me know that they were there. I would come drive their way. And that didn't work out either because suddenly they were like almost at my house by the time she sent the message, which actually had a reason for it this time. Because apparently now it's all paid parking in the area where my aunt lives, so it would have been a paid experience if I were to go drive over there and then pick them up and then move along. So, okay, but eventually they arrive here. And I go get my car. My aunt didn't know I had a car yet, so she's like, oh, nice car. I'm here like kind of driving around each other a little bit because of course they're trying to turn around and I'm trying to get my car out of the parking lot. Eventually managed to get the cars like parallel to each other, roll down a window, talk to each other, and she's like, oh, we're gonna go to the graveyard, do you want to lead the way? And I'm thinking, well, if I do that, that would be too efficient because my mother doesn't seem to know her way around her own hometown anymore, so that's a lot more fun to follow her around, so I did that. I don't know how she managed that though, because she was born in this town, which is also my hometown, and she lived there for about 50 years, and then she moved up north to move in with her boyfriend, and she hasn't come back ever since. Well, she comes back for visits, but she hasn't lived here anymore. But pretty quickly after moving up north, she forgot pretty much where everything is in her hometown, so I don't know how that works. Apparently she only knows about the place where she's currently living. And even there, she's not quite familiar because normally she doesn't go anywhere. She doesn't work anymore, so she doesn't have to leave the house much. So she manages to get here. She still manages to find my house, which is something. And so I'm following her. We're back in Sunday mode now. I'm following her car in my car, so there's 2 cars going the same way. And every time when we had to either turn left or had to turn right, she would go the opposite direction. And we ended up like doing circles on the parking lot of a nearby train station and going all the way around the area here, and basically it took twice as long to get to where we needed to go. And of course, on the one hand it's a little bit confusing trying to follow her, but the other hand it's kind of amusing because I never know what she's gonna do. It's gonna be entertaining. So eventually we get to the graveyard and we go take care of some graves, blah blah blah, and then my brother shows up as well because she had sent him a message last minute as well. And he shows up about halfway through, and then once we're done we would normally go and get like a bite to eat or something, or go to a garden center somewhere afterwards, but of course most places were closed. So we end up driving all the way back to near where I live to a little shopping mall here to see if anything's open there. which of course it isn't, except for one like a little cafeteria on the corner. And all we really wanted to do was get a cup of coffee and maybe like a snack to go with that, some apple crumble pie or whatever, just to have a little coffee moment. But instead of just doing it the logical way, like walking up to the order window which you had sitting outside and just saying, hey, like 4 coffee and a couple of apple pies if you wouldn't mind, her and her sister make a whole spectacle out of going back and forth and like confusing the guy who's standing there waiting for the order and just like talking, and then, oh yeah, what about you? Oh, what about you? Oh, you want coffee? Oh yeah, maybe. Oh, I don't know about can we get like a fork? No, we don't need a fork. Okay, can we get a plate? No, do we get like like constantly like switching up what they're actually asking this guy, and it's really confusing. And then my brother and I just tend to stand up in the back, like, just let him take care of it, because eventually we're going to get something out of it. I don't know. So after a while, we finally settled on having the coffee and the cake, but they couldn't give us a plate, of course, because they didn't have takeout plates, and they couldn't give us any forks, even though later they came back on that, said, oh, if you're going to sit like over here in the park, then you can have a fork just as long as you bring it back. But of course, by then we'd already determined that we were just going to eat the cake out of our hands, because we are kind of used to that sort of thing. So we get all of our stuff and we sit down with like 6 feet between us. There's like 4 people in a row sitting 6 feet between us, trying to at least, and they start feeding the birds and etc. And after that, they do still want to go do something, so we start Googling things. And all the while, my mother is talking about this old neighborhood friend that's been sending her messages on Facebook Messenger, and who wants pictures of her, wants pictures of my aunt, and all these other things. And of course, my mom's not great with her phone, but she does manage to do something. So she manages to take a picture, but then manages to lose it and doesn't know how to send it. And she goes and takes a selfie with my aunt twice, who was very happy about that, because my aunt doesn't like to be on photos. So while she's trying to finish her coffee and eat her cake, she's also having to like pose for these selfies, and it's a bit chaotic. But afterwards, we're like, okay, maybe we want to go to a garden center. Let's take a look what garden centers are open. So my mom's on her phone trying to check out which garden centers are open. I've already found which ones are open, but I just let her do her thing for a while until she finally figures out which one is open and which one is not. And then there was one that was nearby, which was open, which we then ended up driving our 3 cars to. Went around in the garden center for a while, bought some things, and of course that was all very chaotic as well, because most businesses have a certain way that you're now allowed to enter the store, because you have to have like either one of those baskets or a cart. And then my mother and my aunt kind of don't understand or don't see the reason behind it, or think it's a bit of a hassle, so they just kind of walk around in the store already by the time that my brother and I have told them, no, you need to get a card because this is like an official rule now. And it just seems to think that there's one rule for other people and then there's a rule for them. But eventually we did manage to get them a cart or a shopping basket, so that we were actually compliant. But they just tend to have this chaotic way about them, and it's always a lot of fun, but it's also very frustrating sometimes, because you don't know what's going to happen next, and you don't know how much time it's going to take, because something very simple as just going for coffee can take an hour to even get to the coffee, and then you still have to wait for them to finish it, because my mother in particular will constantly be talking, so she won't have time to eat or drink anything. After the garden center, they wanted to go get some fries, and of course things are closed everywhere, and so they started asking like, oh, can we go to your place, my place? I was like, nope, I didn't sweep, so we're not going this way. And eventually we ended up going back to the same little mini mall where I had seen previously that the snack bar that they had there was going to open up at 2 in the afternoon, so I decided like, oh, maybe that's a good option, because that's right around the corner. Like a 200-meter drive, and we'll go ahead and do that. So we came back to the same square and ordered our stuff, and they had a different system there for ordering. We either like send one person in to do all the ordering, or you could like borrow a piece of paper and a pen and then write down your order on that. So while my mother and my aunt are like being chaotic back and forth trying to figure out what the situation is, I've already got the paper and I'm writing down the orders, and my brother goes in to get it, and we meanwhile focus on trying to find another spot to eat our stuff at the same little place. It's a good thing that it was actually good weather. Well, it was kind of turning around to a rainy day, but up to about, I want to say 3 or 4 o'clock, it was just maybe a little bit cloudy, but the temperature was good, so we had good luck with that. So eventually we ended up sitting on the same benches we sat at before with the coffee, and then instead of the whole coffee chat, it was the fries chat and the snack chat, and everybody else around us like kind of looking at us because my mom makes a lot of noise, and my aunt makes a lot of noise back, and my brother kind of stands out, and I'm just kind of usually on the edge looking at what everybody else is doing to keep an eye on whether we are being too noisy or annoying or whatever. Try and manage the situation. So it's kind of a fun, chaotic thing. For Mother's Day, I didn't have a gift on me at that time, but I did order some flower bulbs for her, which I had sent via mail directly from the place that I bought them. And she likes to garden, so bulbs are always a good thing to give her, so she's always happy with that. So I made sure to get some very pretty flowers. So that was Sunday. Anything else during the week? Well, I spent the week working from my kitchen table for a change because I got a laptop from work, but I tried to use that at the same desk where I also have my own computer, but that's too much stuff on one table. Not handy at all, so I spent the week confusing the dog by sitting at the kitchen table where I normally am not visible. Aside from that, nothing much. We've got some new rules coming up where we are allowed to use the public transport, but I think starting for June 1st, I think I already said that last week because that's why we're making the masks, so I need to continue making masks for that situation. And then I'm not really sure even if we are supposed to go to work yet because they are trying to rearrange things at the office to make sure that people don't end up within those 6 feet of each other just sitting working. And I'm not really sure if I'd want to go back like a full week of going to the office again anyway, because if anything, this situation has shown that it's perfectly possible for a lot of people to work from home if they just have the right equipment. And why would everybody need to be on the office at the entire time, the entire week? It also saves a lot of traffic, it saves a lot of pollution, and I think a lot of other people have seen the same thing, and there have been a lot of reports about the reduction in pollution, so why not do a solid for the earth and just not demand that people go to the office every day because it's usually not even necessary. I mean, people are not more productive if you see them sitting on a chair than when you don't see them sitting on a chair. You just have to kind of trust that people know how to do their job, and there's pretty sure there's certain metrics you can apply to that to make sure that they do all their work on time, etc. I think that whole thing needs to change a little bit. Oh yeah, we had a pub quiz yesterday for work. Like normally at Friday afternoons there would be like a drinks hour or something. Usually I'm already gone at Friday afternoon by the time they start, but now of course that it's virtual and we can just run in with a Zoom call or something along those lines. And we did a quiz, and I didn't actually end up in the bottom for a change. I think I was 4th, maybe 3rd or 4th, I think. Didn't do too badly. Wasn't certainly not one of the best, but some of the questions I just didn't really know for sure. A lot of true or false ones, of course, which are 50-50 chance, and a lot of logos that I didn't know, so that's also a thing. But all in all, I didn't do too badly, so who knows, maybe we'll do it again next week, and maybe I'll get a better score. So that's it for me. Hope you're doing well, and hope your family's doing well, and that things aren't getting too expensive for you, because certain businesses that are opening now, that are allowed to open, are raising their prices to try and catch up for lost time, but not everybody has the money for that. And I think one of those businesses in particular around here is hairdressers, so people who have been sitting around complaining about their hair are now going to feel like they need to go to a hairdresser, and then they're also going to end up paying a lot more money. So if you do know how to cut your own hair, that might be a better idea for the time being, until prices may return to some normal level. I don't know. Either way, stay safe, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching, and bye bye for now.